I've got a question for you. Have you ever delivered a talk or a presentation, and even if you thought everything had gone well, it just didn't land, or at least not the way you thought it was going to? You didn't get the results that you thought you would get. You might have been clear, maybe really confident. You may even have been funny, but something was off. So, what if I told you that it might not be your content or your delivery, but a hidden charisma killer that you didn't even know was there? In this episode, I'm going to share with you 3 charisma killers that I see all the time working with clients, plus stories of real people, with their names changed, of course, who overcame them. So let's dive in. My name's John. I'm a keynote and presentation coach, and this episode is something of a warm up for a special that I've got coming up. It's called Charisma Killers. It will be a live event on LinkedIn and YouTube, and I'll give you more information about that a bit later on. But on that training, I will be revealing the 7 biggest charisma killers that sabotage your stage presence, your influence, and even your long term bookings. So today, I want to give you a taste by walking through 3 of the most common charisma killers. They are overexplaining or overteaching, incongruent energy, and a lack of curiosity. So let's start with one that I see almost constantly from speakers, especially with a training or teaching background. Let me introduce you to Tina. And that's not her real name, but she is a real client who came to me because her keynotes weren't landing. And Tina was and is from a training background, highly experienced and incredibly knowledgeable, great at what she does. But when she got on the stage to deliver a keynote, she couldn't switch off the teacher. She'd walk her audience through every concept, explain every angle, and overfill the talk with content or value, as she was referring to it as. The result, her audience was overwhelmed with information, maybe even confused, but certainly somewhat disengaged because of it. And she ended up being frustrated because she knew that her content was good and the impact was there, the transformation was there. But here's the thing: training and keynote speaking are not the same game, they are different beasts. Training is more about clarity and depth. You have the opportunity to go deeper and share more, teach more. Keynotes have more of a reliance on energy, emotion, connection, and inspiration to take action. So she was bringing the right skills into the wrong moment. And she's not alone. Another speaker I worked with not that long ago, we'll call her Kay. She also came from a teaching background, and what she was finding was that she wasn't really getting rebooked and her workshops weren't really landing. So once we worked together to switch off teach mode and switch on connection mode, things started to change, and pretty fast as well. In fact, within weeks of us having started working together, she was reporting back that feedback she was getting from events was much better, especially when she went back to an event where she was rebooked to speak. She was told by the event manager that the transformation in her content and delivery was exceptional and was definitely a big improvement. So, overteaching is a charisma killer. And if your audience feels like they're just being overloaded or force fed information and content, it will ultimately shut them down. It's too much for their brains to take in the scope of a keynote talk. They don't really feel seen. They don't feel connected. They don't feel a need for more information if you've delivered everything already in the keynote, even if they forget most of it the moment they walk out the door. It's deadly for charisma. So let's talk about incongruent energy. And let me tell you about Anthony. And Anthony was a passionate speaker, still is, but he masked his nerves by going full motivational speaker mode. And he was not a motivational speaker. Now, it's always good to bring a bit of that motivational speaker energy where you can for certain parts of a talk. The high energy, the big smiles, the enthusiastic delivery was great, but none of it was real. It wasn't authentic to him. The more he tried to pump up his energy, the more disconnected his audiences felt, and the more disconnected he felt from what he was doing. So he looked the part, he maybe even sounded it to some degree, but something wasn't quite clicking. And Audiences can always feel that if there is an incongruence there, if how you are trying to be perceived doesn't really match up with the general energy or demeanor, people will notice it, even if they can't quite explain how. That's incongruent energy. We've probably all encountered that at some point. We've either seen it in others or we've experienced it for ourselves as well. So it's when your outer delivery doesn't match your inner emotional state or the emotional tone of your message. So you can see it in people smiling whilst they're delivering serious news, or overly animated delivery for a subtle or intimate message, fake confidence masking fear or insecurity. It creates cognitive dissonance, and audiences might not know why, but they will feel that something's off and they'll start to disconnect. And once Anthony learned how to ground his energy, match his delivery to the moment and the content, and show up with more of an authentic emotional presence, he became magnetic. Authenticity is charisma, and congruence is how you deliver it. Now, the third charisma killer is one I've experienced myself, especially from my time in storytelling and stand up comedy. Way back when, I used to think charisma was all about impressing people, looking sharp, being witty, getting the laughs. But here's what I learned, unfortunately, the hard way. But hard lessons are ones that last for sure. Charisma isn't about being interesting, it's about being interested. So in stand up, the best comedians listen to the room. They're tuned in, curious, responsive. And I'm not talking about engaging with hecklers, although that can be a part of it. But I'm really talking about noticing energy, shifting, maybe changing a delivery just based on the energy of the room that you're in. When I shifted from more of a look at me to let me really connect with you, everything changed. Energy shifted for me, and audiences leaned in more. I'll say this as well, it made me a little less scared of going up on stage because I wasn't there so much for me or for what I was going to get out of the experience. I was more interested in delivering something good to my audience and connecting with them. And when the focus is on things that aren't based on how good you are or what you can deliver or the accolades that you might get afterwards if you do a great job, things shift. Whether you're speaking on stage or in a podcast or one-on-one, curiosity connects. And conversation particularly, if you want to connect with people who might be giving you referrals or additional bookings, having genuine curiosity in people enables you to deepen connections and have people feel that you really cared and really heard them. When you genuinely want to understand your audience, when you adapt to them in the moment, they will feel it. And that's what charisma looks like from the inside out. So let's quickly recap the three charisma killers to look out for here. Over-explaining or over-teaching, which is turning your keynote into more of a training session and trying to pack everything in to 45 to 60 minutes or however long you're doing. Sometimes delivering super long keynotes just to try and fit everything in unnecessarily. Most keynotes probably shouldn't be much over 45 to 60 minutes unless you're actually being asked to deliver something that is longer than that. Incongruent energy, saying one thing and looking or feeling or showing something a little different, picking up having people's emotional radar picking up and something isn't quite right. And that lack of curiosity, focusing on your performance instead of connection. So these are just 3 of the 7 charisma killers that I'll be sharing and working with you to fix in my upcoming live session, Charisma Killers, How to Spot and Stop What's Sabotaging Your Stage Presence. So it's going to be free. It's going to be occurring monthly as well. So if you can't get on the one on the 14th of August, there will be monthly repetitions of the event for you to be able to come back, or you can maybe try and find the recording on either my LinkedIn profile or on YouTube. So in that session, which will be around 45 minutes, I'm going to show you how to identify which charisma killers are affecting you and what to do to fix them. It's going to be free. It will be live. You'll be able to ask questions at the end as well. And it's packed with practical insight. You'll find in the YouTube description or show notes if you're on the audio podcast, a link for you to register for the event now. And if you are listening after the 14th of August, well, just make sure you're following me on YouTube or LinkedIn, and you will get notified the next time the event is running. Now, if you want to increase your bookings, rebookings, referrals, or just feel more magnetic when you speak, you won't want to miss this. And hey, if any of these charisma killers hit home for you, I would love to hear about it. So drop a comment or message me directly, and I'll look forward to seeing you at the live event.